So don't waste any time. Let's jump into the music stuff. So this will be sort of like a Heez Wise special, right? Because if you remember, I covered the Heez Wise project, which was the collaborative record between New Jersey rapper Heezy Hines and San Fernando rapper Micwise, right? Whose work I've been covering for quite some time now, right?
Yep.
But there was this particular EP that Heezy put out a while back, I should say last year to be precise, called Table Talk, right? And I didn't get around to giving it a listen. So I was like, all right, let me just give it a few spins and whatnot. 'Cause the one project that I really want to talk about here is Mike Wise's new album, which is called The Degree of Difficulty, right? So
Right.
yeah, I'll keep this EP review kind of short and sweet, right? Just giving general thoughts on it, right? It's mixed and mastered by Micwise, right? It features well, 6 tracks actually. The first, well, one of which is a song that I already covered. That would be Payback, right? That was off of the Dirty Pages album, which I
Right.
covered when that came out. And for me, this was my introduction to Heezy, right? And I was really impressed by his wordplay and his flow in particular. He just has a way of rhyming and just rhyming in time with the beat, and just that flow that he has. It just works so well, right? And listening to it now, I could really understand why Mike considers his verse on this track as one of the best that he's ever written, right? So that's
Right.
really dope. But yeah, we pretty much get 6 tracks here. The first one being Cliffhanger, which has this sort of smooth, jazzy, nocturnal instrumental. It's actually like my favorite beat on this EP, right? It just so smooth, right? And in just like roughly a minute and 6 seconds, he just packs so much high quality bars into it to the point that you literally have to re-listen to it numerous times to pick up on everything that he does, right? And then of course, just knowing his lyrical dexterity, yeah, he just flows over this shit so well, man. So great
Right.
track, right? Up next we have Don't Forget. This is produced by Tuano. I forgot to mention the producer of Cliffhanger is Solus, right? First time I'm hearing about this individual, right?
Right.
But yeah, Tuano, I've mentioned that before with my Exit Wounds review. He was the producer. I'm assuming that he is a producer who did the beat for More Confusion. And like that particular track, it has this pitch shifted vocal as a drive-in sample for pretty much this mellow production, right? And similar to Exit Wounds, Heezy is rapping about his life experiences and just pretty much how they've influenced his everyday life now, right?
Right.
Especially the bad stuff that happened in his life, right? He also does this thing throughout this whole EP where he'll mention serial killers for some reasons. Like on the first track, he says Voorhees. This is what he calls himself, Heezy Morgan. As a reference to Dexter Morgan. It's kind of weird how he does that, but yeah, that was pretty dope, right? I mentioned Payback before. So after that one, we have Tyrants, which has probably the most nostalgic beat on this EP, right? Because it has this sort of 70s soul, black exploitation kind of vibe to it, right? And I
Right.
really dug the instrumentation for this, right? But despite how soulful and smooth that song is, he just goes into some dark territory because similar to Exit Wounds, he's always talking about like battling his inner demons and just trying to keep them at bay. He doesn't want them to come out into the light, so to speak, right? And he also does a little shout out to then alive Bray Wyatt, right? He calls himself Heezy Wyatt,
Right.
right? Up next we have, well, I should say the penultimate track is Talk. This actually was released as a single, and I actually remember hearing this because yeah, Mike Wise himself, I believe, tagged me. I believe he tagged you on it. Sorry, when it came out last year. But I didn't know that it was part of this EP here, right? But yeah,
Right.
technically this is the first Heez Wise song to be released as a single. Okay, yeah, it's just the two of them more or less just doing their thing. I just love the just the format of it basically. It's just this really smooth beat, produced by PK, and it's just each MC just spitting some impeccable flows, man. Um, And even at the end, he says, you stated another fact earlier. He's wise, right? So more or less saying this is what this is what Mike said, during his verse too. So it's like, okay, so
Right.
this is like the beginning of of this dynamic duo, right? Which technically you could say it started with Payback, but you could say Talk is technically the first He's Wise, single that we've ever gotten,
Right.
right? Last but not least, we have The Table, which is produced by the Outbreaks. These were, well, I should say, these were, was the producer who worked on the track Evocation, right, off of Exit Wounds. Outbreaks delivers this rousing instrumental, and it has a brief bit of pitch shifted vocals that, it helps give the EP this sort of like triumphant and climactic feel to its conclusion, right? And
Right.
in this case here, similar to Exit Wounds again, he's confronting his demons, he's acknowledging how they've affected his life and his decision making, and he's trying to be a better person, so he's always like fighting them, right? So yeah, it's a really like again a rousing way to end this project, right? And yeah, just as a whole, just finishing off this quick review here, yeah, solid EP, man. And I would say if you've never heard Heezy, before, if you never listened to a Heezy song before, if you're not on, if you haven't checked out Exit Wounds as yet, which you absolutely should, because yeah, I think that it is a great record, right? Yeah, I would say give this Table Talk EP a listen, man. So for me, rating
Nice.
wise, I'm just gonna give this a decent, a strong 3.5 out of 5, man. Yeah, solid business here, man. So give it a
Nice.
listen. It's on YouTube. I think probably it's on other platforms, but I checked on Spotify. It's not there. Exit Wounds is there, but Table Talk isn't there. I do hope that Heezy does upload it to Spotify at some point in time, because yeah,
Right.
I mean, yeah, more people should really like be aware of it, right, and check it out, man. So yeah, if you haven't, yeah, give it a listen. So, with your help, Ricardo, I would love to talk about The Degree of Difficulty, which is the newest
Oh.
album from Micwise. This is actually like the third project he's put out. First one being Heez Wise, as I mentioned before. This was his collaborative album with Heezy Hines. Second one being Mad Scene, where he collaborated with Rook Beats.
Right.
He did all the beats for all the production, on that project, right? And yeah, I pretty much dug both of those. He's Wise in particular is in my top, I should say best of albums, albums list, that I've checked out for the year. And same
Right.
thing goes for Martin as well. I really enjoyed both of those, right? But with this album here, the degree of difficulty, right? Forgive me if I say decree at some point in time in this review, right? Sorry, right? I had to sit down and really take this in, but I really had to let this thing soak in, right? So before I jump into the track by track review of this, right? And of course I'll ask you for some assistance, Ricardo, right? Yeah, I imagine like many people, I just listened to it once, just kind of just taking in the album. I'm not really like listening to it, like really taking in every single thing that's going on, but just like kind of hearing it flow and whatnot, right? And the moment it ended, I was like, all right, I like this, but I know there's something going on here. There's something else is going on here, right? And with the more listens that I gave this, the more I pick up on what was really going on, right? So I'll jump into that in a bit. Of course, there were a couple of singles, prior to this album's release that I did hear. So first one being Spiral, so I'll get to that later on, and the second one being Chainstorm. That actually has a video fit, right? And I'll also talk about that as well. So yeah, this album is produced entirely by this German producer by the name of Boga. I had to go up on IG and pretty much find this guy, but yeah, he is indeed German, and he did produce the entirety of this, right? So I also should mention too, right? So because it's us, we got an advanced copy of it, right? I don't want to call it a leak because it's not online, but yeah, we got an advanced copy of it, right? But the thing is, the sequencing for the first two tracks were a little bit different. Well, first, I should say the second and third were pretty much switched now, right? Because I went on Spotify now, and the track 2 and 3 that we were exposed to earlier on were switched, right? So I will more or less review it as the Spotify version, right? So just getting that out the way, right? So intro, we have an intro, it's called Endure. It's a 40-second intro.
Right.
Boga's beat has this 70s black exploitation vibe to it. It has these soulful guitars, it has this organ in the background. And for me, like the opening lines are rather striking to me because he says, I endure, I have learned to enjoy what I endure. And that
Right.
pretty much sets up the theme of this album here, right? And after the spoken word intro of sorts, Mike drops 4 bars, which pretty much sets the tone of the record, right? And in a nutshell, it's just pretty much talking about how hard he's willing to work and how much he's willing to endure to live the life that he deserves, right?
Right.
Through this medium called rap, right? So with the advanced copy that we had, the track that comes next was Away. And I actually thought that would have made for like a great like opening song, but actually on the Spotify version it's Make Statement, right? So what I'll
Right.
do, I'll just talk about Make Statement and then Away, and then I'll just ask for your thoughts on those 3 tracks, right? Well, including the intro, Ricardo, right? So Make Statement, right? So this for me is probably like the first time I've ever heard Mike, pretty much rap over a beat that has DJ scratches, right? So, which I'm
Right.
assuming were performed by Boga himself, right? And
Yeah.
and points for him choosing a Bounty Killer sample, right? If you remember Bounty Killer's work from the
Yeah.
2000s, he always used to call himself the Warlord, right? And if you listen to the track itself, yeah, it has, and even with the beat itself, with the horns, it has
Yeah.
sort of like a military kind of vibe to it, like you're going out to war basically with it, right?
Right.
And the beat itself sounds excellent though, right? It's very tense. It just kind of gets you pumped, right? And that's how, the Bounty Killer cuts come in. The hook sounds fantastic to me, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so pretty much Mike does something that he has explored before in other tracks, right? But in this case, well, just off the first verse alone, though, he just does this skillful dissection of capitalism and its influence on the third world in particular, right? Well, the world, but more
Right.
the third world, right? And just how we are influenced, how it become part of our lifestyle and culture, right? The second verse in particular is reminiscent to what he did on the track Watch It Burn off of Dirty Pages, right? Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, right? That's how the hook goes, right? Yeah, where Mike pretty much executes his master plan of just bringing down this capitalist system, right? He also drops, for me, one of the album's most memorable couplets. Chose to be an orator of what they visibly did. How can I claim to be woke if I ain't lifting the lids?
Right.
I
That's
mean, right?
a good line.
I mean, that,
That's
that,
a real good line.
I mean, right?
But it take me a little while. It's like, wait, islands, right, right.
You see? Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
The beat alone is enough to keep your head nodding from start to end,
Yeah.
though. But yeah,
Yeah.
for me, this is one of the most thought-provoking tracks on this record, right? So up
Yeah.
next, we have The Way. This for me is what I thought was the opening song, but whatever. And Boga comes through with this downcast, but it has a slight hopefulness to it. Boom bap, synthesizer driven beat, right? The opening bars are quite clever for me because Mike is pretty much talking about he wants to live the right of way, but living the right of way can still get you strike to the ambulance come right away, right? That's how he
Yeah.
opens the song, right? I like that. Just metaphorically, it's like crossing a street, right? You cross the street, you think you have the right away because yeah, you crossing the street again from one point to the next, right? But a guy in a car, in a vehicle could be like, no, I have the right of way, and he might just speed and feel like he own the road and he knock you down, right?
Right.
I like how he just kind of uses that just to kind of set things up, right? So he just kind of expands his metaphor. He's more or less talking about the fear of, what happened if you get hit, or just the fear of like a quick death or a slow one, right? If you're lucky to survive, right? And he goes even deeper, right? And it's stuff that he's touched on before. In particular, like what he did off of Heat 68, right? I'll bring that up in
Right.
the end of my review, right? With medication and just how it's supposedly supposed to treat mental conditions or disease, but it could give you more worse side effects and whatnot, right? The second verse now really goes further, and where it's pretty much his character portrait that he does here, right? Because yeah, he's just talking about, well, this thing happened to me. I was on my way towards my dreams, and then boom, something bad happened, and I'm left for dead, so to speak, right? But I'm
Right.
alive
Yeah.
now. And now, I'm addicted to these drugs, this medication here that's supposed to make me feel better. My family turned my back on me because of the addiction. And there's even a moment where you realize, oh, he's out in the street now, and people quick to pull out their phones and whatnot, because
Yeah.
he's a madman. He's being labeled a madman when he vents out to the world about how he's feeling, right? He even does a nice little Tribe Called Quest, reference where he says, "But I'm trotting along alone. Then it's hard not having a tribe when you're dwelling on the low end." Right?
Right.
I love that,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah.
And it ends with him pretty much realizing how important his rap skills are. Because if he does not make them work for him, he may end up, dying, right? Or, worse, right? So he says, finding myself behind bars, an obvious chapter, making the most of these bars, something I probably should master, right? The third verse, however, is the most hard-hitting, because this character kind of ponders on what he will do, because how the second verse pretty much ends is that he's arrested, right? This character that he's portraying here gets arrested, right?
Yep.
But now he's about to be released, but now you're seeing these fears of being manifested as to what will happen to him when he's released now. So
Well, yeah, it's like it is oh gosh, a fellow hang himself in that movie.
what show was that?
Gosh, yeah, shit, Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, right, yes, right. I forgot about that. Yes, you're right, yeah. And I like how he frames it, like bars, right? So he said, prison bars and, the bars, right? Like lyrically, right? And I just love how he just sort of juxtaposes, like, the future of this social degenerate, if you will, and this washed up rapper, right? Until you realize that they actually one and the same, right? So it's pretty much the mistakes that he made in the past now are going to be remembered by people who see this guy in the present, right? And even worse when he's dead, right? And even in the end, though, like the last line in particular is probably one of the most haunting lines I've heard in a song all year, where he says, "Even after I'm gone, what they gonna be selling is myself," right? So that really, really hits deep, right? So in short, it's pretty much this cautionary tale and this character study. We could tell that this is what Mike does not want to be. He does not want to go all in on his dreams now, and then they don't work out, and then he just kind of loses himself to some sort of addiction, and then he becomes some sort of like washed up rapper or some kind of social degenerate. So you could kind of see the kind of paranoia, the fear, you know what I mean? Like this is what I don't want to be, right? And he's just putting it out there on this song here. So it's a sobering listen though, but it really does hit. It really does connect to especially with me, right? So Ricardo, your thoughts on the intro, endure, make statement, and the way.
Yeah, solid, and pull through everything. Yeah, the Tribe Called Quest line, I remember that. It didn't the album didn't hype me up until then, but I really love that. That first I Endure stuff, which I really felt he could have do verses on that. Because that stuff was solid for me. Like I was really enjoying that material. But yeah, these first two tracks really powerful, and I realized how really surprisingly personal this album is. The album seems to focus a lot on that, because there's a couple tracks that coming up that I could not believe he actually do. It's like, oh, that real surprisingly deep though. I want to talk, well, it gonna one of the tracks actually gonna make my best of the year, given our general theme involving two other things, and I'd like that he addressed this in the thing, but that coming up later. But yeah, solid start to the album for me. Yeah.
And yeah, for me, I love the way, like the way is just a fantastic song though. But it's just how it goes so deep into this whole fear and paranoia. Like again, this is not. I don't want to be this person, right? So it's like that.
Yeah.
So up next we get Codes, right? So like after the whole dreary existential nature of the way, we get this significantly lighter, laid back song, right? With Codes, right?
Right.
I really dig the sax melodies, especially one that pops up on the hook.
This is my second favorite track on the album.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
But don't let the upbeat vibe of it fool you, right? Because Mike is still determined to make his craft work for him, one way or the other, right? How he opens the song is great, right? So he says, "I illustrate just to fill a plate. I need to eat, not to hear my job was well done. A lot is at stake. Bring my cake, not a minute late. It really ain't shit to waste. These funds can never dissipate." I know, by the way, just in terms of that first, that interfeit line at the end. All right, Mike, I see you. I see what you did there. That was cool. And in the second verse, he talks about, certain individuals who are quick to call Mike's, just outlet, right, to express himself, a joke, right? And then rappers who
Yeah.
treat, the art of rap as a joke, right? But yeah, he also kind of admits near the end that he kind of uses alcohol as his coping mechanism, right?
Right.
Because yeah, he's concerned, he's wondering if he's on the right partner, so he kind of uses that to numb the pain, right? But he kind of catches himself as like, you know what, I have to be very careful. I can't succumb myself to that, right? So yeah, despite the dark nature of the lyrics themselves, yeah, I mean the beat itself is just so smooth and laid back to
Yeah.
us. Again, that sax though, I love it.
Sax, yeah, that sax just, yeah. I mean, I bias Aussie jazz, so
Yeah.
you can't, all jazzy Micwise is his best Micwise to me. So yeah, you can't go wrong with that jazzy track like that. It's like, yeah, man, yeah, but you made with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this real tight. As I say, this is my second favorite.
Right, and if there is to be a video for it, I just picturing like, I don't know, some kind of like jazzy,
Well,
like some jazz club or something that he does there, like
there is a video. There's a song that seems to be tailored to both of us. That's coming up.
I know.
Definitely, we could make a video for me. I don't have the video picture in my head. Even though it's like a cliche approach to the video. But yeah, we'll see. When it comes up, we know
what it is, right? But we'll get to that, right?
But go ahead, yeah. But I love quotes. I really like this track. That just that jazzy approach is like, yeah, can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Up next we have Chain Storm, which is the second single from the album. And this is the second track to incorporate these, DJ scratches, right? In this case, it incorporates 2 reworked Biggie samples, right? And for me, this is like this glorious boom bap bar fest, and it's an absolute highlight on this, right? Also, side note, right? So this track's runtime is 2 minutes and 22 seconds, right? I'm now wondering if this is supposed to be like this subconscious reference to Jay-Z's 22s. I don't know. Maybe I just reading too much into it, right? But yeah.
Right.
But anyway, Boga's production is designed to just make you screw your face and just snap your neck to this thread. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Mike just goes all in on this, dude. Just all these razor sharp bars, right? And just a lot of punchlines and, just rewind worthy stuff. I'm not even gonna quote anything here, right? But if you really like listen to it too, right? And in the context of the album as well too, it kind of feels like a war cry as well too, right? Like you can imagine like just Mike going into battle with his track playing in the background, right? While he's just going out and just vanquishing foes, right? Whether it's, literal or figurative, right? But yeah, as you could tell, I fucks with this track. I love this, right? Yeah, so Ricardo, your thoughts on Chainstorm?
Yeah, I love the track. Again, the Biggie sample is like, all right, is that what we talk about? This is a real hard Biggie sample there. Like, I can't go wrong with that. This is a track that stick with me. Not my favorite because I have other bigger highlights. But yeah, this one that's on heavy repeat.
Right. So we gotta get to that Thief track in a bit, right? So up next we have Exalted, which features S. And he really kicks off the verse, the track, with an impressive verse, right? The way how he ends it's kind of hilarious. The way he says, "Larger than life size, me and Micwise gargantuan, your bars just bite size," and how he just stops the song. It's just funny to me, right? The beat itself has this light, airy tone to it though, and you hear like strings and organs just kind of popping up, right? Just kind of giving this sort of soft texture to the song, right? And of course, Mike comes through with numerous quotes, numerous brags in it as well too, right? And in a way, like just thinking about it, like especially the title of it and just how the beat sounds, you can kind of imagine him just on this high pedestal, just kind of looking down on their biggest critics, right? Like, look at you guys, look at you peons, right? So yeah, solid track, really enjoy that, right? And then a track that Micwise himself, told me that, you and I, Ricardo, were going to enjoy and love, Real Cinema.
Right.
This is surprise,
second favorite track.
We love this track.
Yeah. No, this is my second favorite track on the album.
Okay. So Chords is your third favorite then?
Right. But favorite coming up later. But this sketch, but it's like I thought this would be my favorite until I heard the other one. I'm like, all right.
Okay.
But this one hard. This one like, shit. And I it's like, oh yeah, right. All right. And it just have two big cinema reference for me and you, perfect tailor made. As I say, the nerd out film geek could get you could get some good film geek who know all of the reference points, because the obvious like video, if you're making a video for it, again, if we have the cash and the money and I can sit down and design it properly, yeah, just to recreate a shot and color correction and aesthetic and scenes from everything while it cutting through every lyric, like
Yes.
seconds wise. So it literally like flashing from literally everything. So all the Nolan films you mentioned in the beginning, then this other reference, and then thing, and then the Scorsese stuff, and then how the song ends is brilliant as well, right? I love
I
that.
agree, boy. Cause yeah,
Yeah.
that final line, boy. When I hear that, I was like,
But
yeah.
when
That one hit me.
the song sample references as what do you call it?
Oh,
Scorsese
yeah,
song.
yes, Scorsese,
That
right?
famous, a very, very, very infamous, and very controversial take he has, which gets better with time. As somebody said, if Scorsese did wait a couple years, people would be jumping up and cheering him. Because right now, Marvel really kind of going through it now. But
Yeah,
yeah, this is my second favorite track. He just named all these great, great movies in a row, but cut it together so smart, and again, the beat hard too.
it
Just
is.
that piano riff, you can't go wrong with.
Yes. But yeah, you pretty much speak everything for me though. I love this track though.
Yeah,
Just as a cinephile though, it's right up
yeah,
there, right? But
yeah,
of course, it's not just I just spitting titles for the sake of it, right? No, it's
yeah,
about how he's framing it with his journey. He's talking about his come up. He's talking about how
yeah,
he got into rap in the first place, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because like the opening verse, he says, "From inception, I was interstellar verses, haha,
yeah,
insomnia
yeah.
from every dark night I spent to learn this." You know what I mean? And he just
Right.
keeps going
Yeah.
and going and
Yeah,
going.
let's drop about 5-1, right? About 5-6 Nolan movies right there.
Yeah,
Like,
but
out of
that
it.
last
Um,
bar though, trust me,
yeah,
if you're a local creative, if you're a Trinidad creative, that will
yeah,
hit you. That will hit you. Trust me,
yeah,
right? But yeah, just
yeah,
to touch quickly on the Scorsese thing, right? Because you know what the conversation is, right? Um, I was kind of thinking about it in terms of like what Mike's mission is, right? In terms of just being this torchbearer of Trinidadian rap music, right? And I just
right.
kind of thinking about like how Scorsese says, like I just sort of like watch one movie, one Marvel movie, and I don't know, I just never like watch any others. And they like like it's in other words, it's like, are they art or products, right? That's
Right, right,
the debate being asked here, right? Like the stuff that he makes, right? Is that a product, or or can you say, or is it art, right? But can you
right,
say the same thing about a Marvel movie? Is it a product? It kind of is, but can you see it as
right.
as I would almost say high art, but can you see it as art as well, right? And I kind of see that as just Mike himself sort of thinking
Yeah.
about how other people will perceive what he's doing, especially with this record and what he's doing in general, right?
And
Like,
including his place as a rapper. Like,
agreed.
he's clearly one of those rappers who could have quote unquote sold out a long time ago, kind of
Yeah,
thing. Though. He clearly doesn't. He really strives for. Well, at least I think so. Not reading him man mind, but he does strive for an authenticity that does really work for him in his case.
exactly. Yeah,
Especially us living in Sando and knowing the realities of San Fernando. And him growing up in Sando and all these little. The conversations with him, we knowing him personally, blah blah blah.
yeah,
But yeah, it comes together really, really well, and the context of that Scorsese quote is great. It's
agreed.
perfect, like
Yeah,
a perfect little full stop on the whole thing. It's like, yeah, this is great, great,
yeah.
great track.
Great track. And there's just one last point I want to make about the Scorsese stuff, right? Also, like him being so old, and like, you just watch him, it's like, well, of course you're not gonna get the Avengers, you're not gonna get Iron Man, look at you, right? But now,
Right.
in the context of what Mike is seeing on this track now, you're kind of wondering, well, to everybody else who just not into rap music, are they gonna like take in everything here and still be like, oh, okay, well, nah, I mean, I don't
So
really
as I
care.
say,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
almost like there's no value to it. But it's clearly that you don't it's like you don't understand it, or you're not making an effort to really understand it. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like to each his own, right? But what if
right.
a lot of people think the same way? Like, okay, I hear it, but I really don't care. Does it mean that there's no value to it? So that's what I love about this the use of this excerpt here, right? It just kind of
Right.
opens up this huge debate about urban music and how it's accepted down here in Trinidad.
Yeah, with yeah, especially in the coming up, and especially now, like this was a problem for a hot minute. I feel like since the 2000s start, this has been a problem for hip hop in that sense, where hip hop effectively it's in its post glam rock era, effectively,
Mm,
right? That's why. So it's we we passed the point of quote unquote selling out. And so where does the composition of somebody like a Micwise fit in that? And again, I think it's absolutely one to one great common reference and point to reference Scorsese in that conceit,
Agreed.
in
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you're talking about. And I do think Scorsese's quote ages like fine wine. I mean,
Agreed.
about the nature of the MCU and whatnot. So yeah, a great track. It really holds up.
It does, right? So
Yeah.
up next we have Rise of the King, right, which features Lynx the Indigo Child, who you may remember from the two-part song Isle, that's off of the
Right.
Unusual Suspects, right, which Mike Wise dropped last year, right? And
Right.
we boy Profess, right? So
Right. Yeah.
let me just kick things off, right? So one of my favorite gangsta songs, right? I'm gonna bring up gangsta later on, right? It's always been Speak Your Clout, right?
Okay.
And basically is a three-part song. So it's three beats that DJ Premier make, right? And the last beat is done by Guru, right? You know, R.I.P. to Guru,
Okay.
right? But the first beat is who raps over it is Jeru the Damager. The beat for that particular that first part is amazing. I love that beat, right? And the second one is from Lil Dap from Group Home, right? But yeah, essentially it's a 3-act song now, but it's not one beat, it's 3 beats be put together into one song, and it's just 3 artists coming at it, right? And I always
Right.
love that as a concept, right? I always wish that more rappers could do that. Just
Do
come out
that.
and just
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
yeah, I just want a song with 3 beats,
Different beats.
and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, right? A verse
Yeah.
each, right? And to my surprise, we get that here with Rise of the King, right? And I mean, unlike Speaker Cloud, which is just automatically have me snapping my neck every time I listen to it, right? In this case here, it's just 3 MCs with the chips on their shoulders, in
Yeah.
tune with each other, just spitting their hearts out, boy. My God.
Yeah, right on. Yeah.
Lynx sounds energized over Boga's, well, in this case, with his section, triumphant production, right? And speaking of energized, right? I love how the energy builds with each installment of this song, right? Profess, I've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for a hot minute for him to be on a Micwise song since he did Make Noise off of
Right.
off the 216's album that Profess put out a while back, right? He sounds hungry AF on this too,
Yeah.
and the beat that Boga does, well, is rather soulful, right? But it's subdued enough so you can kind of feel that raw energy that Profess just exuding on this way. And for me, hands down, one of the best verses on this record, right? That's what Profess did. He just came in real hard, just out the gate, right? And not surprising, Boga saves his most moody beats for last, right? And then, well, Mike just comes through and rips it to shreds. And
Yeah.
basically, just him just expressing like his strength, his resilience, and fortitude, basically, from the lows that he's endured in his life and career, right? And I would say one time, he dropped yet another first year contender. Ta-da!
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is another VOTY contender, boy. But yeah, I love this track, right? I mean,
Yeah.
again, we need more 3-act, 3-rapper songs, man. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
let me have 5-act, 5-rappers song, man. Songs or something like that, right? The more the merrier. Hell, let me go 10 rappers, 10 beats, right? In one song. Let me just go all in on that, right? But yeah, Ricardo, your thoughts on Rise of the King?
Yeah, as I say, yeah, Micwise really stands out in this. I like the two first two, and Profess pretty good, really solid outing for him. The first guy I didn't think about it so much, but it's like a solid outing for him as well. But yeah, Mike really come good with this this track here. It's like, all right, yeah, this is, as you said, yes, you are correct. It is a verse of the year contender. But I just like the approach. It's just different beats. It cuts together really well, and it just bounces off each other nice and well, as you see. Yeah, really enjoyed this track.
Right. So up next we have The Tone. So I'll just do, track 9 and 10, right? And then you'll share your thoughts, right? So up next we have The Tone, which features len-dor, who is a Canadian rapper that I was introduced to because he was on Rook Beats now, the producer.
Right.
Shout out to Rook Beats, by the way. Love your work on Mad Scene. Yeah, so he had a mixtape actually called Rook Beats Volume 2, right? Also shout out to E Smithy because he was also on that as well, and E and len-dor have a track together called Speak It. The video's out right now on YouTube. Check it out, right? So yeah, I'm actually familiar with len-dor, right? But it also features, well, Heezy Hines, right? So I'll get to him last, right? And basically, the driving sample of this beat should be familiar to anybody who remember this little movie called Midnight Express from the late
Right.
great Alan Parker, right? If you remember this Outkast song Return of the G, or if you remember Deadly Zone from Mobb Deep and Bounty Killer from the movie Blade, which is that classic, yes, is that sample, is that you know the sample, you know what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that's pretty much driving this this song here, right? But Boga actually puts this sort of like boom bap twist it, right? So it doesn't sound like the Outkast song or the Deadly Zone song or whatever it is, right? That right. And pretty much each rapper is just delivering his own brand of braggadocio, but it's more in terms of the mindset, right? Put into the rhymes and who they address it to, right? And just to bring back Gangsta into the conversation here, I love how it ends with an interview with Guru where he's talking about how, when they do the songs, they like to set up specific tone, hence the title, to each of the songs, right? And for me, everybody crushes it on this though. But for me personally, the MVP have to be Heezy Boy, because he come through with this really intricately written, and just how he delivers the verse though is just so effortless, right? Dude have the gall, right, to end his verse with a few references, to a little electro-funk group called Zaptrid. And when I hear it for the first time, I'm like, wait, nah.
Yeah.
This man did that. I heard a few times, like, oh my god, this man referenced Zappino, like Kids Ask Parents, right? This is what he did here, right? But yeah, absolutely enjoyed this song here. This was a great, collaboration between them, right? And again, I just always love it when, you have rappers from different countries come together, but they all, have the same mindset and they just do their damn thing, right? And before we get to your thoughts on that, I also want to mention the lead single here, Spiral, which for me is easily one of the most emotional songs Mike has ever put out, right? The beat is moody and disenchanted as all hell. And yeah, pretty much Mike is examining his deep-rooted anxiety, right? And how it leads to occasional panic attacks, right? The vulnerability that he expresses here is so captivating, right? And I really have to applaud Mike for just being brave to put this out there. Like this is the mental and physical burden that I go through, right? I, as a Jay-Z fan, and many Jay-Z fans will appreciate how he recontextualized the hook from Lyrical Exercise, with the 1, 2, 3, breathe easy. I love that, right? And for me, like the placement of this track near the end of this album is a smart call, because you really get to see how the hardships he's enduring, right, could get to him, right? Okay, it's one thing to be great, and people calling you, one of the greats, one of the goats and whatnot, right? But people don't know about the pressure that you go through. Not just about maintaining that title, but just your own sanity. Again, is this the right path for me? Am I even gonna achieve the success that I want? And you could tell that this is weighing down on his shoulders, man. So yeah, you can't blame this guy for being anxious and having panic attacks and whatnot, right? But yeah, again, it's just in relation to this road that he's on, right? And yeah, just him being so brave to put that out there is really, really admirable, right? So for me, yeah, I absolutely felt this track, but I can't think of anybody who come out to this track not even not feeling some sort of emotion from it, right? Unless you just jaded or whatever, you just don't care, right? But yeah, you can't listen to this song and not feel that tension, but not feel that burden that that Mike is clearly bearing, and expressing on the song here, right? So yeah, Ricardo, your thoughts on the tone and Spiral.
Yeah. So tone pretty good. As I say, you're correct. Easy comes through this. But yeah, Spiral is a great track. It tempers the entire album, in my opinion. There's the track coming up soon that is a nice complement track too, and it really works in that sense of it. I just thoroughly enjoy the track. Surprisingly, sublime and vulnerability that makes it work. That's why it comes together. Yeah.
Right.
Solid stuff. Yeah.
So 2 more tracks to go. So we have 27, and this is where the spiral continues on, right? And just when you thought Spiral hit you in the gut, boy, this one does even more, boy, because this is pretty much this brutally honest look at Mike's slowly but climb to success, boy, and long-term stability, right? It's pretty much this extended verse that he does, and it just slices through all the perceptions that we have of instant fame and success once you grab a mic
Right.
and spit bars, right? It's
Right.
easy, right? But even if you make it, right, like even if you make it to the top, it also shows just how easy you could fall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that easy. It's that simple to just lose it, right? Even when you're climbing, right? Lose that footing, if you will, right? Or lose your balance, or whatever it is you want to term it, right? Um, but yeah, he's just, but like, just metaphorically, it's really Mike looking at the mirror, right? Taking this long, uncomfortable look at himself in the mirror, reevaluating his steps and missteps, right? And just sort of figuring out, hey, is this, am I on the right track, right? And believe you me, just doing that whole reevaluation thing while you're looking at yourself in the mirror is some very uncomfortable shit. Trust me on that, right?
Yeah.
Boga's beat is mellow, and it just sets this sort of like regretful, worn down tone of this song beautifully, right? You really get a sense of how heavy these burdens are, right? And even like the sole mention of its title at the end of the track really hits hard, right? Especially if you're familiar with what that term 27 mean, right? Well, the
Right.
27
Right.
Club, right? That really hit hard,
Yeah.
right? So, like the previous track, I forgot to mention, the Spiral ends with this vocal excerpt, right? I would highly recommend not skipping that or this one here, right? So, like the one for Spiral, for example, is what sounds like this philosopher or psychiatrist more or less talking about how we process anxiety and stress and whatnot, right? But it there's a lot of truth to that, right? And in particular, this one here, boy, is so truthful, but it's shockingly true, boy. It pretty much is just talking about, like, when it comes to the music that resonates with us, the tortured soul resonates with us more, right?
Right.
More than somebody who's all happy and joyful, right? Because it's easy for us after a while to just look at the happy, joyful person and say, oh yeah, you being fake. You know what I mean? But I more
Right.
relate to the person who's bearing his soul, and look at how tortured and look how messed up my life is. I feel that, right? And it's so provocative though, but it's the truth. Sorry, it's the truth, right? And for me, that particular excerpt sums up the whole album for me, right? Especially
Yeah.
in just how candid Mike is on this album, right? Yeah, cause that's the stuff that sticks out to you more than see some happy, joyous song, right? That's
Right.
just the truth of it, right? And it's sad, but that's the truth of it, right? And last but not least, we have Autonomy, right? And Boga leaves his darkest beat for last, and shit's gonna get dark when you hear this like ghostly sample of like this Jamaican MC about to do like verbal damage to your eardrums, right? It's the shortest song on the album, like just a few seconds shorter than Chainstorm, right? But like Chainstorm, Mike gets to the point quickly, right? And he does some verbal damage of his own, right? And he just exits the stage from that point. And speaking of stage though, Mike ends the album on both a high and a low note, right? High in the sense of like the writing, right? And the delivery and the emotion, right? You feel everything in it, right? But thematically, yeah, it's low, right? And because you get this idea of how Mike deals with this degree of difficulty, right? Yeah, this is pretty much him just putting all this burden on his back and shoulders and just going back out. Just going back out in a dark path, you know what I mean? Even
Yeah.
though the future for him is uncertain, right? So it like if you take it about like a movie, for example, like the ending of a movie, yeah, it's pretty much, yeah, going back out to war. It's that moment, right? Like, you just pick up your guns and your bag and it's like you're going back out to war, right? And that's what Mike is doing here. It's like, yes, there's all this burden, I should just put it down and probably do something else, but no, this is my path and I have to go down that path, right? And yeah, I like that he kind of ends the album like that, right? But also too, you know what I mean? Like, as dark as this road is, that it doesn't mean that it's always going to be dark. There's going to be some sort of, light somewhere, right? And, well, for me, I kind of leave this album feeling that, he will be strong enough to just endure this a little bit more, right? Before he sees that light, before he sees that brighter day, right? But, at the meantime, he just had to keep walking, right? He just had to keep walking again, no matter how uncertain his future is. And so, in a way, this sort of ends on a sort of a bittersweet note, though. It's actually a little bit more bittersweet than dark, right? The beat is dark, don't get me wrong, right? But yeah, it kind of ends on a sort of a weirdly hopeful note, too, in a sense, too, right?
Yeah.
But I love that, though. I love that he, how conscientious that particular song is and how it just closes the album like that, right? So yeah, Ricardo, before I get into my final thoughts, your thoughts on 27 and Autonomy.
Right, yeah, so 27 Club is my favorite track on the album.
Not
I am
surprised,
so
not
glad.
surprised.
I'm glad that somebody talking about this. It's just the idea of this, the contrivance towards suffering.
Yeah.
A lot of our modern society does that. Like, you have across the bay or whatever it is, and it's such a weird generational debate about this, about we could get into a deep argument as why so many people push this narrative, but it is in my humble opinion, completely false narrative. So this gonna make this track itself gonna make my best of the year.
Nice.
It's mentioning something because it's in context with two other things. So this is a video I really like called the what is it called, by the 7 Deadly Sins of Creativity or something like that by I'm slipping my mind right now, but he put the card up a list in front of me. But CJDX, look up somebody called CJDX. They have a lot of great like takes on art and art design and creativity in general. It has really good videos, high energetic, very funny stuff. But yeah, then a person called Thought Slime, another Canadian YouTuber who does this great stuff they do a lot of progressive content, but they do a lot of great stuff on creativity as well. And yeah, just the idea of creativity and what it is you have to go through and how it's just a lot of demystifying and debunking. I should have done some research to figure out who the person was who Micwise at the end here. It's not like a TED talk. I'm not really sure who it is, or some lecture. But I should have looked up who exactly that woman was with respect to the what the last line. Because yeah, that is exactly it. Just the contrivance towards when people too happy, for some reason we think they're fake. For some reason. Like, yeah, that's not necessarily true. Well adjustedness is also, you could also be authentic and well adjusted at the same time. I mean, I don't know why people is why it is about suffering and suffering in a certain way. Just tweak our brains to think that a person's a great artist by suffering. Like what that is nonsense. It's the same thing with insanity and genius. That thing now. If you're smart, it must mean you must be insane in some way. Not true. You could actually be well adjusted and operate in the world. It's both. But yeah, I really, really like this track. I appreciated that this track exists because it's a great countervailing of the narrative about that kind of stuff. And so on and so forth. For the final track, yeah, good way to send off the track. It's not a track I listen to too often. Not especially because it's coming off the high of 27. But yeah, this album overall, I think I enjoyed this the most since Hate 68.
I was going to say that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's the one I just find myself just bumping and replaying a lot. It's just with the other albums I only repeat like one or two tracks. Like the last one with Heezy Hines, the one with J Smoke I play a lot, and then the one with the beginning track, the track they released first, I forget the name it. True Story. I played that a lot, but that's it. I don't already played too many other tracks on this. I've played the entire album many, many times.
Nice.
Going through, just walking, traveling. I had to do. I did a couple things, and film had some little lecture stuff this week, so I went to that. So yeah, I was like traveling a lot this week and thing. And yeah, stuff like that. And because I had a lot of busy work, I find the time to listen to this. And yeah, this album was just running itself. Very, very little not listening to this album. Yeah, it was like 90% of my time just repeating this album. It was just solid stuff overall.
Nice.
Yeah. Overall, excellent album for me. Since I played it, and mostly because of how deep and personal this stuff gets. That is why it works so well. That's the stuff that Six, as they say. I know we just mentioned the conceit of suffering, but like it is a good, somewhat hopeful conceit about creativity and the overstating of creativity in our world, especially with all this AI nonsense and thing. People starting to dig deep about what it is that makes creative work. What it is, what is the human aspect of it. For the most part, yeah, people have to start answering these very, very tough questions that we don't really, we don't think about because we just have a job to do or a product to put out in time and so on and so forth. And look, I ain't part of the problem because I'm very efficient at that part of it. But when it comes to the actual creativity itself, it's like you would realize, oh, you have something deeper to say, and just the mere fact you want to say something is the core of it. And yeah, this track nails that absolutely. Yeah. So overall, I love this album. Rating 9 out of 10. I don't like it as much as Heat 16, but this one is as a repeat a lot, and I enjoy a lot.
All right, well, thank you for those final thoughts, right? So let me get to my long ass final thoughts, right? Yeah, so for me, I agree with you, man. This is probably the most heartfelt album I've ever heard from Micwise, and surprise, surprise, easily one of his best works, right? Yes, it is easily comparable to Heat 68, in terms of the dark tone, though. But like while that record was more about like just externally looking at just the ugliness of Trinidad, right? Degree
Yep.
of difficulty is more personal, right? It's more cerebral, more
Yep.
introspective, right? I like that in this case here, you're more or less just kind of seeing the behind the scenes, if you will, like of Mike as TNT's lyricist, right? I mean, we could talk for days about how great of a wordsmith he is, right? We could talk from now till the year ends, right? But this one just gives you a look at just how he feels, right? Just as an artist, right? And if
Yeah.
you're creative and you just feel like your work just not being appreciated, especially in your home country, which is something I could relate to a lot, yeah, you can
Yep.
relate to this album in more ways than one, right? Um, Boga's production is excellent from start to end, and yeah, this is really an excellent showcase of his work, right? So yeah, I do hope to hear more of his work in the future, right? And yeah, thanks to his beats, we get the best out of Mike and his guests as well, too, in the context of the vibe and tone of this album, right? But for
Yeah.
me, the takeaway from this though is emotion, right? Even in the braggadocious tracks, though, you still get the sense of fear and concern, right, with regard to this path that Mike has chosen, right? And it's something that I always find myself ruminating on, right? Like, yes, he's from Trinidad, he's doing rap, right? But does that mean that it shouldn't get the same amount of acknowledgement and respect that, say, soca or chutney and parang does, even though those particular art forms are seasonal, right? They're not there 24/7, 365. Well, with the rare exception of soca, right? But I mean, to be fair, soca is usually associated with carnival. That's just what it is, right? I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
But you always think, and it's easy to think that. I usually feel this way too. You usually think, oh well, maybe if I fly away, right, which is something that he brought up on Seven, um,
Yeah.
you know, things will probably be a lot easier up there in the States or in the United Kingdom or whatever. Not really, but you may have more advantages, more chances, right, compared to down here, right? But yeah, you're down here. It's not like you could just get a plane ticket and just jump to a country and make it big, right? So what do? Do you just throw away your dreams, or you just keep going at it and try to be the best? And you reach a level where, yeah, it doesn't even matter if you set up shop here or abroad, as long as your work speaks for itself, right? And I know that's where Mike wants to be, right? That's the level he wants to reach at. But still, there's mental and physical stuff that comes with that, right? The side effects that come to that as well. I love that he was brave enough, bold enough to address those things on this record here, right? So for me, right, in closing, this is really one of those albums where you really need to sit down and listen to it, right? And I mean this in terms like how I see the first time I was just kind of listening to the bars and just the flows and the wordplay and whatnot, like yeah, but I know that there was something else going on, and because I was listening to it and making a lot of notes, that's when I pick up, oh, that's what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that, and I also like the fact that it's just 35 minutes long. It's so, but there's a lot
Yeah.
that's going on in it, right? To the point that yeah, you will find yourself re-listening to it and just picking up on something new, right? So I would say, you can listen to it casually and enjoy it for the bars and the beats and whatnot, right? But if you really dive into it, though, you really pick up on the emotional aspect of it, though. And that, to me, is really what stood out the most, from this record, right? So, yeah, this I would see this right. I would see this right off the right off the bat. Sorry, yeah, this is Mike's best album for the year, bar none, right? One of
Right.
his most top tier, I would say, since Heat 68, right? I mean, and yes, I still have Heat 68 up there on the pedestal, on my pedestal, just because of just the dark, visceral nature of it, right? But this
Yeah.
one was more, again, more cerebral, more introspective, though. And I really admire and respect the fact that, he was able to do something like that, right? But yeah, talk long enough, we talk long enough. For me, I'm gonna give this a lighter, decent 4.5 out of 5. This is easy one of the best albums I've heard all year. Currently, this is about top 5 right now. And believe you me, this is destined to be a classic. So yeah, don't sleep on this record. Do not sleep on the degree of difficulty.
Nice. Yeah.